Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Donna Blanchard.
And I'm Ali Yamashita.
We'll visit HCATT, the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies, and learn about high-tech hydrogen vehicles and what they mean for Hawaii.
We met with Stan Osterman, who runs HCATT, and we toured his facilities on Cooke Street and on Hickam Air Force Base.
We met with Stan one morning last week to find out what was going on at the HCATT facility in Kaka'ako.
He and Todd Martin of US Hybrid, a contractor at HCATT, showed us how they convert buses, trucks, and industrial vehicles to run on hydrogen instead of fossil fuel.
Stan Osterman and I are here at 531 Cooke Street because that number is embedded in my mind and memory. In the heart of Kaka'ako, a great history here. This is the HCATT, the, what is it now?
Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies.
I knew you'd say that. So Stan runs this place and he's going to give us a tour around.
And the plug-in electric vehicles started right here at HCATT. We had some buses. Tom Quinn, the guy who really got HCATT started, got the electric plug-in vehicle market going and pushed it as far as he could until it got commercialized and was into the mainstream, and then he started moving us into hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So right now we focus on hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles primarily for the Air Force, and we do some conversions in our shop that end up at Hickam Air Force Base. Some other conversions are done in Torrance, California, and by the same company that we have here, and they end up at Hickam. And by the end of this year, we should have about 5 or 6 flight line vehicles all running off hydrogen at Hickam. So we're going to go out to Hickam and I'll show you that facility. And that one we're upgrading. We're going to upgrade the equipment at our electrolyzer plant that makes hydrogen so that by the time those other vehicles roll out here, we'll have a good supply of constant hydrogen for them.
So what's the benefit of having hydrogen over conventional fossil fuel?
Well, over conventional fossil fuel, the biggest thing is there's no carbon emissions. When you put hydrogen into a fuel cell vehicle, it's not even burned. It's basically recombined across a platinum catalyst, and it makes electricity. And I'll tell you about that when we get in the shop.
Now, what's the benefit of hydrogen over electric car?
You can actually get more in the 200 to 300 and even up to 400 miles on a fill from a hydrogen vehicle, whereas a regular plug-in electric, you may get 100 to 120, maybe 150. And then have to stop and recharge, or like the Tesla guys do, drop the batteries, put new batteries in. So you're going to end up committing your car to a plug-in station for several hours while you recharge your batteries. So with current battery technology, that's the limfac, is the long charge time. Whereas with a fuel cell vehicle, the fuel cell charges the battery and runs the motors. So when you actually need to charge a battery, it's probably only needs a trickle charge to get it up there, and most of the time you're running off of hydrogen that's making your electricity for you anyway.
How long does it take to fill a hydrogen vehicle?
Depending on the kind of system to fill, there's several kinds, between 3 and about 9 minutes. So it takes a little longer with the older technology because the most of the vehicles that are like SUVs and passenger vehicles, they pressurize their tanks to 10,000 pounds per square inch. And when you compress hydrogen to that high pressure, it gets hot and then your tank doesn't fill up all the way. So the pressurization systems that we use cool the hydrogen down before it goes in so that we can fill the tank quickly and get it more topped off. We get most of our funding from the Air Force to do Air Force vehicles. So 2 vans over here, Air Force, this big dump truck is Air Force. But you'll notice these 2 buses here, although they're kind of green camouflage looking, they actually belong to the National Park Service. They're going to go up to Volcano National Park. And so these 2 buses are fuel cell buses with the same size motor basically as this dump truck, and the same size fuel cell. Actually the motor's a little bigger than the dump truck, but the fuel cell is the same size. It's a 35 kilowatt fuel cell. And you'll notice that the fuel cell in that bus is so much smaller than this one, because this is older technology by about 2 years. And in 2 years, they've almost gotten to half the size of the fuel cells. We work with the University of Hawaii, HNEI, the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, and they're working on tube trailers and hydrogen production on the Big Island with a whole lot of folks within HNEI and Blue Planet Research to try and get some electricity off renewables and make hydrogen off of renewable energy. But when I talk to the legislature, I tell them there's a lot of ways to make hydrogen. On the mainland, they reform out of other fuels like natural gas and petroleum products and coal, and they can extract hydrogen off of those fuels, and it's cheaper than making it with electricity and electrolyzer. But when you use renewable energy, electricity from photovoltaic, from wind, from geothermal, from ocean power, whatever, you're starting with zero emissions. And then when you're using an electrolyzer to make the hydrogen, you have zero carbon. So from beginning to end, you have no carbon footprint, and it's all renewables, and water's your byproduct from your fuel cell. And that's the kind of environment we want in Hawaii. And Hawaii has enough renewable energy to really go full bore into this technology, especially the other islands. Oahu uses a lot of energy, so we don't have the real capacity to make as much renewable energy as we need, practically speaking, unless we can somehow tap geothermal. And there are geothermal areas on Oahu we could be tapping into. But the other islands, they could go full bore, Big Island especially. I mean, we don't hardly even count geothermal when we talk renewables over there because it's currently so controversial with some groups. But if they just use wind and solar and some of their other renewables, they could produce more energy than they need. So that's why we're kind of focusing on the Big Island for some of our projects with HNEI. This is kind of actually a good stage to look at the fuel cell. That's the fuel cell on top of the compartment there. And the blue piping is cooling system that goes around with it. So they haven't put the cooling fans and stuff in front, so you get a good view of the fuel cell. It's really pretty compact. We actually have 2 battery packs, lithium battery packs that go in these vehicles that are part of the system, the electrical system. And they can store enough electricity for this bus to go about 30 miles without any hydrogen in it at all. So in reality, when I talk about these vehicles being plug-in electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, that's what they are. They can do both. In fact, you can see this post right up here is the plug-in port for a plug-in electric charge.
Ah, you go either way then.
Yeah, so you can literally plug this in and charge it up. If you look under here, you can see 2 of the tanks. You have to get down kind of low. But this is one of the tanks here, and there's one on the other side. Probably easier to see the other side. This is the motor that drives everything. And in this space under here is where the big lithium batteries would go. Right under here where all the orange wires are, orange tubing is. The front up there is the air conditioner unit. And the thing that the tour companies and the bus companies love about this is you can run your air conditioner full blast and not have any emissions.
What do you do around here at HCATT?
We're assembling hybrid electric vehicles, converting them to a fuel cell, battery powered. That's our priority business right now.
Okay, and this looks like a big battery over there. Is that a battery?
That's a battery. It's a 14 kilowatt hour battery. We put 2 of them in the vehicle for a total of 28 kilowatt hours worth of electric energy. Ultimately, they're charged by the battery, by the fuel cell.
These are special batteries, or
the state-of-the-art lithium-ion, very computer-controlled, interfaces with our vehicle controller for all safety and performance.
How about efficiency? Are they more efficient than an ordinary car battery?
Yeah, they're more efficient, and the cycle life is much higher.
So a battery like this is expensive. Since it's state-of-the-art, it must be expensive, huh?
It's rather expensive. However, the prices have come down dramatically. We're looking at probably 60% reduction in cost the last 5 years in lithium technology.
So given the reduction, what's one of these units cost?
At our quantities that we purchase, probably $10,000. In this vehicle here, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a bus. It could be any other type of vehicle, a delivery van or those types of vehicles.
You have to be very flexible and creative because they need to, make conversions on any number of different kinds of vehicles.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we have 2 storage tanks in this case, one on each side of the vehicle. This is our gaseous hydrogen storage at 5,000 psi. That energy is then converted via the fuel cell to charge a battery pack. Our battery pack is connected to the high voltage DC bus, which then powers our inverter which converts the high voltage DC into AC to drive our drive motor. From our drive motor output shaft all the way back to our differential, it's a regular vehicle. There's no differences.
It must take a while to do a conversion because you sort of start at ground zero and you have to invent it for the particular vehicle involved.
That's correct. The first 3 or 4 of these have taken some time, but we now have our engineering process down now to where we can actually start pre-ordering parts and have them ready to assemble in a more of a production line type sense.
So how long does it take to do one?
The first one took better part of a year. We can do it. That was included all the design from basically the ground up. Right now, we're probably at the level of doing one in a month and a half to 2 months. And ultimately, we would like to have an OEM manufacturer actually install our parts on the assembly line. Core technology is software, and it's throughout various nodes on the vehicle, whether it be the motor controller or the fuel cell controller, but they all interact with each other over a controller area network bus.
The vehicles are manufactured with the driver in mind, and the transition from a regular internal combustion vehicle to one of these is very simple. And they tried to keep the cockpit and the layout and everything as much in line with the original manufacturer as possible. And so for the drivers, they get in and they have a little bit of training, you know, a couple hour, 2 hours of training, and they're off and running. The first thing they notice, though, is there's quite a bit more acceleration than they expected from a vehicle that doesn't have a big engine in it. And then the next thing is we got to change these windows out because they rattle too much. They make more noise than the vehicle does.
Relative noise, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It would be much cheaper if a manufacturer, like Todd said, on their production line would take their engineering and install it on their production line. The cost of the vehicles would drop dramatically. If you look at Toyota and you look at Hyundai and you look at Mercedes and you look at BMW and you look at Honda, they are in production with fuel cell electric vehicles. In production. Those companies don't go into production on a whim.
Then Stan drove us out to the HCATT facility on Hickam Air Force Base to see the photovoltaic and other equipment used to generate hydrogen for the vehicles on the base.
The technology is going to get there, and it's just a matter of keeping focused on the objective, which is, okay, if hydrogen's the right answer, what do we need to do to make it cheaper and make it something that everybody can use and feel comfortable with? And I think that day is going to come, and we just have to keep plugging away, doing these conversions, demonstrating it for the Air Force, demonstrating it with the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation, convincing the legislature that it's a good investment. You know, I think that the legislature would like to invest more in renewable energy here in Hawaii, but they don't see, other than photovoltaic on houses, they just don't see the return on investment that they'd like on the transportation side. So we're trying to make that more apparent to them. I'd say the potential for electric motors and this technology in the maritime world is an untapped area that has a lot of potential. When you start to look at the only place that I have a hard time seeing hydrogen being a good solution in terms of fuel and energy is aviation. But for maritime and for ground transportation, for rail, I'd say the hydrogen may be a good solution all the way across the board. And it just may take us a little while to get there. Well, this is a 647 LRS. These are the guys that actually operate the vehicles that we manufacture, and this is their motor pool. So most of these vehicles are regular internal combustion vehicles, and that's what they have to operate every day. Here's our photovoltaic array, and this is our station right here, and we're in the process, like I say, of upgrading the equipment. We're converting the station from, this will be its third conversion to a new configuration. This big 20-foot container behind us is a stationary fuel cell built by Hydrogenics, and it's a 65 kilowatt generator basically. So, but it runs off hydrogen. So this is a vehicle that would go out on the flight line and pull up under a C-17 or a C-5 or a Boeing 747 or whatever. The only difference is this is a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. So instead of having a big V8 engine and a big transmission, it's got a fuel cell. This is very similar actually to the dump truck. The same technology fuel cell. It's a little bit bigger than the ones you saw on the buses. And then it has, again, lithium-ion batteries underneath. This forklift is actually a hydrogen fuel cell forklift. And it's amazing because it looks pretty much like a regular old forklift. But what you've got is a lot of weight. The fuel cell's so light, they have to add about 3,000 pounds of ballast in there so the forklift won't tip over under a load. But inside here, there's a fuel cell. This is a hydrogen fuel cell powered forklift.
We also took a ride in a hydrogen bus operated by the Air Force at Hickam. It had great pickup, but the loudest sound was the air conditioner.
The driver's compartment is pretty much, it looks pretty normal. It's one of the things I'm trying to do with the Air Force to make them see that how much money they could save in energy if they just think about changing some of their equipment. Other than the windows making noise, which, and these sound like they've actually been fixed a little bit. They used to rattle so loud even on a little bumpy road that was distracting. So the building was designed for energy efficiency, and then you've got PV on the roof, on the south flank of the roof, PV on the parking, and they're working, their next project is in this open field to the right. They're going to put another 100 and something kilowatts of PV out there. When all the PV is hooked up and running, it'll be a net zero building. So this is a building that would cost about $140,000 a month in electric bills, and it'll be net zero, all off of renewables. We're going to have some weapons loaders for the F-22. Well, we don't want them to be driving all the way over to the other station for their hydrogen. So we're working with Air Force Research Lab and CTC, another contractor, to build another hydrogen production station over here, as well as run 2 tow barless tugs and weapons loaders for the F-22s. But we're coming up on a building, the one that has the big circles up there on the side of the wall. That's one of the old F-22 facilities that was used to inspect the fuel compartments on the F-22. Well, what HCATT has done is we're actually retrofitting that building to be a net zero building. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks very much, you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. But pretty cool bus, yeah?
Very cool.
I like it.
In every way.
Yeah, the air conditioning works great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
The thing about hydrogen vehicles is that they are very quiet. They take only a few minutes to charge, and they have much greater range than pure electric vehicles.
With high-tech electrolyzers, renewable energy can be converted and stored and shipped in the form of hydrogen. Yes, storage for use whenever you want.
The prospects are very exciting, not only to meet the challenge of weaning ourselves off oil and ground transportation, but for moving our clean energy initiative ahead in general.
After all is said and done, Stan Osterman is right. Hydrogen vehicles are the way of the future. And although it will take a few years, they are likely to jump ahead of pure electric vehicles. Stay tuned for more at HCATT and on ThinkTech.
The good news is that Hawaii is an important test site for the development of these hydrogen vehicles. We need to recognize that and take advantage of it. Let's appreciate and prepare for the great possibilities for hydrogen. And now, let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts video and audio for all of our talk shows live on the internet from 1 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. If you've missed a show or want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on YouTube.
Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links, or to join our mailing list and get these links and advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be a part of our live audience at our downtown studio in Pioneer Plaza. Contact Jay at thinktechhawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
On Wednesday, August 27th, ThinkTech will present a luncheon panel program on high-tech medicine in Hawaii. How far can we go? Moderated by Ginny Presser, Executive Vice President of Hawaii Pacific Health, the largest healthcare provider in the state. With 5 medical researchers and an HMSA executive to help us understand the new technology and whether and when we should plan to use it. This program will be at Laniakea. You can sign up to attend it at thinktechhawaii.com.
And now, here's this week's ThinkTech commentary.
You know, we live in the middle of the ocean. These storms come. They come in an El Nino year. They come in the middle of climate change, and we are spared, miraculously spared, from not one, but 2. So what's the takeaway from that? I suppose we could learn that there are technologies that we have now, like drones, that could help in the case of a disaster. And maybe we're better at communication, and maybe because we really haven't been tested, maybe we can deal better, you know, getting the society back together again after damage. But you know, what does it really teach us? I think a lot of people got pretty complacent, having seen them go off in different directions and never really strike us, you know, excepting Puna.
I think the takeaway is how it built the community. That's what I saw. I'm a girl from the Midwest, so I've lived through tornadoes and blizzards, and the beauty of those, I always think, is the community coming together before, during, and after. And you see everyone in the grocery store while you're stocking up on water. You know, there were a lot of people in Safeway on Beretania 2 days before the Isel was supposed to hit, and we weren't fighting over water. There was a limited amount, but we weren't fighting over it. And I think we were all waiting together, and we were all watching the news together, and there was, you know, talk in the elevator and talk while you're standing in line for coffee, and it was heartwarming, and luckily we didn't suffer any major damage here. But I think had we, and places where, on the Big Island where there was major damage, people are still coming together to help get through that, and that's what's most important.
I agree with you that it was beautiful in the sense that it brought people together in the prospect, but we never had the fact. We were never truly tested. You know, in Iki and Eva years ago, Kauai was really tested. And, you know, they recovered, but it took them a long time. And there were stories, and then there were other stories about how people reacted. And I'm left wondering, you know, my old adage is every nice day, today's a nice day, all week has been a nice day, every nice day brings us closer to the next storm.
Oh.
Sorry. That's the glass is half empty, you know. But you know, what I come away with at the end, and even accepting, even assuming all that you've said about the quality of reaction that we saw last week, that if we have a real storm, we are going to be tested far more. Oahu has gotten away with it for a long time. We have never actually, not in recent memory anyway, been subjected to a bad storm like Kauai has had, like the Big Island has had. Like the tsunami, for example, in the Big Island in the 40s. But, you know, when we are tested, that will be the true test of aloha, the true test of the special quality of these islands and their people. And then we will see. you can't make judgments until that happens.
Right. Right. And you know, Jay, I'm a firm believer in texting and Facebooking and all kinds of electronic communication. And when we are without that and our heads come up and we look at each other in the eye, I think we're going to grow from the experience. I think the aloha is there. I remember in Indiana in the 70s, the town of Monticello was completely razed by a tornado. And those people were embraced and welcomed into other homes. Well, look what happened with New Orleans. I mean, we had people move up to Indiana because they didn't have any home. They were welcomed into our communities. That's who we are. That is our humanity. And I think for the most part in our communities, whether here in Hawaii or in the Midwest or anywhere, our very human nature is to say, you need a hand? Okay, I'll give you a hand because it may be me next time.
I want you to be right. From your lips to God's ears, Donna. Thank you.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Okay, Ali, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Jay Fidel does. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
Definitely, Donna. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or a volunteer, a producer or intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Donna Blanchard. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech and for supporting tech, energy, diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode.
And I'm Ali Yamashita. Aloha, everyone.
My name is DJ. I'm growing up with ThinkTech.